is still firing. Oh, a big left in. Oh, a
knockout ratio of Jackson. Whoa! And then right to that, Terry Norris.
But falling ever further behind him. Oh, no!
Julian Jackson was a beast on the highest level. Known as the Hawk, he terrorized the super welterweights and middleweights throughout the late 80s and early 90s, his reputation growing with each outing. Julian Jackson fought 61 fights, in which he won 49 knockout victories. Possessing formidable knockout power, Jackson is regarded by many as one of the hardest punchers in boxing history. And today in this episode, we will show you the 10 best fights of Julian Jackson in his career, when he went into wild mode and destroyed his opponents.
Negron, who's had a out career, and that might be it! The left hook! Jackson thinks he's won already. He might be right. Ismail Negron.
Julian Jackson versus Ismail Negron. First up on the list is Ismail Negron. This was the second defense of Jackson's middleweight world title reign, and he conclusively dealt with the Puerto Rican inside of one round. Negron came into the title fight against Jackson with a patchy 16-8-1 record and was a huge underdog. The odds proved to be accurate as Jackson went on the attack from the first bell, and when a counter left hook landed flush, Negron fell heavily. Negron somehow managed to get to his feet, and it looked as if he was going to be allowed to continue, but then his legs betrayed him, leaving referee Mills Lane with no choice but to wave the fight off at 0:50. Julian Jackson versus Ron Collins.
The champion is that the man can punch. He just got hit. Collins just got hurt with a good right, and Collins just talks to Jackson. Whoa. And once again, Collins just...
On April 10, 1992, Julian Jackson successfully defended his WBC middleweight title. This fight is the second best performance in Jackson's career. For Jackson, it was the 42nd knockout of 44 fights. Collins of LaPorte, Texas had a record of 21 wins with 2 losses.
All the judges are from Mexico City. And counter punch. There's a heavy right by Jackson, and Collins is tied up. Collins almost hit the referee. Guadalupe Garcia. Crisp left ball. And there's a right by Jackson.
Jackson had Collins in trouble in the first round and third rounds.
And Collins is tied up. Collins.
I think he's going to have to get stung to get back to fighting again.
By Jackson, and Collins just talks to Jackson. Whoa.
Then finished him off in the 5th, knocking Collins against the ropes with a right, then scoring with a left and a right that sent Collins to the canvas.
5, 6, 7.
Collins was up at the count of 6, but the fight was stopped.
And Julian Jackson with a big smile, a very game discouraged.
Julian Jackson versus Dennis Milton.
Good. Jackson looking to air it out here in the very first round.
Now against another slick operator on Dennis the Magician. Milton, Jackson was making the first defense of his second reign as champion. As feared as Jackson and his withering punching power was, the odds on the September 14, 1991 fight took a dramatic shift the day before, with Jackson going from 9-1 betting favorite to just a 2-1 favorite to win. What did the betting folks know? Milton, who was entering the fight having had an 18-month layoff, had earned good wins over Robbie Sims and Michael Olajide, and before that, a Gerald McClellan. A fine amateur who had been stopped just once as a pro, Milton was expected by some to give Jackson, who had eye problems, being almost forced to retire because of his sight issues, real problems. Instead, Jackson's crippling power was evident once again.
Julian Jackson, who is very
Good. Jackson looking to air it out here.
Coming right at his man, Jackson soon found a home for his crushing right hand. The shot slammed into Milton's head, and the challenger was forced to hold onto the ropes with one hand in an effort to remain upright. Jackson knew he had his man, and a few seconds later, another right obliterated Milton, Jackson's right hand temporarily freezing Milton in midair, before he crashed, almost in slow motion, to the canvas.
Jackson looking to air it out here in the very first round. And
The second the shot landed, Jackson threw up his hands in triumph. Milton was laid flat on his back. His arms stretched out above his head. His body was motionless. The count was not needed, as a totally out of it Milton was merely able to roll over and then fall on his face again. It was yet another highlight reel knockout for a fighter who scored a ton of them during his thrilling career.
Julian "The Hawk" Jackson.
Julian Jackson versus Buster Drayton. Arguably the most symbolic knockout of Jackson's career. This was the Hawk's first fight as a reigning world champion, making the first defense of his WBA Junior middleweight world title, with one of the most emphatic knockouts of the 1980s. In 1988, when a 27-year-old Jackson met the tough and unorthodox Buster Drayton in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Drayton, the former IBF 154-pound champ, had a pretty average-looking record at 33-10-1, yet Buster had only been stopped once, and he had been in with good fighters.
A good jab, and he's gone down from the left. Swinging man from Philadelphia has got the British middle. Spectacular and ultimate support of him.
The two men went at it right from the opening bell, Jackson especially. The defending WBA 154 champ launched his two-fisted attack with sheer venom, his shots landing to head and body. Drayton took it all.
You never know which direction he's coming at you from. Good work inside by the champ.
Jackson dropped Drayton with a right hand in round 2, Buster being a little off balance. Drayton couldn't stop laughing as he regained his feet. Jackson carried on where he'd left off. Jackson was indeed landing everything, his uppercuts to the head looking especially nasty. Drayton got home with a few shots of his own, but Jackson was simply unstoppable. The end came when Jackson landed a cracking left hook to the head. Drayton froze for a split second, then fell, almost in slow motion, to the mat. Flat on his back, his arms outstretched. Drayton had the look of a badly stricken fighter, one who was unable to move. Incredibly, the battle-hardened 35-year-old tried to beat the count. Drayton was even arguing when the fight was stopped. The result, a TKO.
Champ of the world, Julian Jackson.
Julian Jackson versus Beck in Chul. Having fallen to the masterful Mike McCallum in his first attempt at winning the 154-pound title, Jackson made good on his second attempt when he stopped in Chul Bayak in 3 rounds in late 1987. Jackson's first defense proved to be a quite astonishing fight. Bayak had lost just once in 42 fights, on points to the tough Sean Mannion, and was known for his ruggedness.
The power that produced those 26 KOs is not awing question. Many sluggers cannot fight going backwards.
Jackson came out alternating between orthodox and southpaw, keeping the forward-moving Bayak off balance.
And his previous trip, the fight took place in Atlanta, Georgia. So he hasn't been successful in his previous trip.
A left hook sent the Korean stumbling back, the ropes preventing him from touching down, and a count was correctly issued. Coming out for the third, though, Jackson decided to end matters. A right hand staggered Bayak before a combination, topped off with a thudding left hook, sent him flat to the canvas, his head resting under the bottom rope. Somehow, he dragged himself up. But a final barrage forced the referee to intervene. Jackson was the new WBA world champion. Julian Jackson versus Eddie Hall.
Antes del límite es realmente escalofriante. De los puños de Julian.
On December 13, 1992, a 32-year-old Julian Jackson fought Eddie Hall in his 47th professional fight. He defeated Hall via fourth-round TKO.
Un pugil que a estas alturas de la pelea siempre tiene antes del límite. Es realmente escalofriante. Y ahora en el cuarto tiene que volver a escuchar la cuenta del señor Carlos Padilla. Y ahora sí, es la cuenta definitiva. No se pudo levantar.
Julian Jackson versus Terry Norris. But Jackson's third and final defense raised his stock even higher. Young gun terrible Terry Norris was viewed as one of the best fighters in the division. His combination of speed and power had seen him record 21 wins from 23 fights. His only losses were a points won to Derek Kelly and a disqualification loss to Joe Walker.
Combinations. Brilliant hand speed, Norris.
Good chopping right hand, and Terry Norris right here in the opening seconds has taken all.
For 3 minutes, it appeared the title would change hands.
Brilliant hand speed, Norris.
Norris' speed allowed him to fire off combinations before sliding out of harm's way.
Good chopping right hand, and Terry Norris
talked about doing some work to the body early, but
Jackson tried to pin down the quick-footed challenger, but to no avail. But holding the equalizer meant that at any point, the course of the fight could change in an instant. And Jackson still had 11 rounds to catch Norris. In the end, he didn't even need 3 minutes.
Comes out and wails at both hands.
Incredible knockout ratio of Jackson. Whoa! And then right to that, Terry Norris.
Maneuvering Norris to the ropes, Jackson stepped forward to shorten the distance. Norris went to slide to the side, but left himself open for the briefest of seconds. Jackson crashed through with a thunderbolt of a right hand, instantly separating Norris from the outside world. The crowd gasped at the sound of the punch and watched in awe as the ropes held Norris up. Another crushing right sent him down, and the fight was stopped.
A little bit, he just drops it there a little bit and just gave enough. Another right.
Struggles to get up.
That's
it.
Afterward, Julian Jackson would move up to the middleweight division. Julian Jackson versus Wayne Powell. Jackson was sidelined for a year as he recovered from an operation for a detached retina, which once was a career-ending injury, but had now become, thankfully, treatable.
Here we go.
In this fight, he will face Wayne Powell, who is known for his stamina and ability to withstand punishment. This bout promised to be exciting as two famous boxers go head-to-head in a battle for supremacy and a chance to emerge victorious. This was just a mind-boggling knockout. For a man to generate this much power from such an awkward angle was something special. Like with what is usually the case when the hawk lands the right hand. It usually ends with the opponent lying flat out unconscious on the canvas. There was no exception to that fact here, as a dynamite right hand left Powell out and in need of the emergency services. Julian Jackson versus Herol Graham.
Oh, look at that one. He pulled him under that punch all right, didn't he? As he walked under it, I should say, there was a good shot.
Undoubtedly one of the greatest knockouts of all time.
And there it is again from another angle, and whatever you look at it, it's a devastating punch.
Graham was having it all his own way for the first 4 rounds, utilizing his superior skill set to pile up the early goings of the bout.
And have a look at this replay now again there.
See, that was there.
Jackson had looked out of his depth, but all the Hawk was really doing was looking for the chance to lead the lamb to the slaughter.
Yeah, but and the good thing tonight, Reg, he hasn't got on his bike, he hasn't been running around the ring keeping out of trouble.
That opportunity finally arose in the fourth stanza of their title fight. Graham had grown increasingly confident and began to press his advantages, which was a wrong move. There is no doubt about it. In the world of huge punchers, Julian the Hawk Jackson is either at the very top, or he is the top 9 of all time.
And Jackson really pulled that one out of the fire. He was in trouble himself, well behind in point.